What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Keep It Hoop YouTube channel. Today, I want to do something a little bit more fun, a little bit different from what we usually do, and it is going to be another tier list maker. We've done a few of these already, but this one's going to be of the 2020-2021 Knicks roster. And I'm not going to do everybody on the list. Like the guys like Norvel Pell, Theo Pinson, going to put, pretty much in the D tier just because they haven't played a lot. But I'm going to be going down the list and ranking the guys on the team. If you haven't watched any of our videos or listened to our podcasts or read any of our articles, I'm a huge Knicks fan, have been since early 2000s. And this has been the most fun, maybe the second most fun. But obviously, the 2012-2013 season was the last time the Knicks made the playoffs. That was a fun team to watch. Very different, a lot more veterans. I would say less homegrown, but it's been a very fun season to watch. The Knicks being in the fourth spot. I know their win streak ended on Monday against the Suns, but props to Chris Paul and Devin Booker and the Suns. It was a really good game to watch. Went down to the wire, and then Chris Paul just hit some ridiculous shots down the stretch. But nonetheless, wanted to do this and kind of just rank the 2021 or 2020-2021 Knicks roster. Before we get started, though, if you could like, subscribe, share, and comment, would mean a lot. Also, follow us on our social media pages. Links will be in the description below. So, right off the bat, I don't think it needs to really be said, but Julius Randle has to be in the S tier, and he's going to be on a tier, in the S tier by himself because, he's the most important player on this team by far. Multiple guys who I'll get into later, but, multiple guys have played really well for this team and have stepped up, but Julius Randle is by far the most important guy. He is having a career season, leading the team in points, rebounds, and assists. The things he does for this team on a nightly basis is incredible, and it shows in the stats, but it's everything that goes beyond that as well. And I mean, he's just changed his game so much. And like most Knicks fans, I was part of that group that wanted him possibly traded in the offseason. He was very frustrating to watch at times last year, a lot of forced shots. I think as he was in his first year being the guy, the go-to guy on a team, he tried to do too much, a lot of forced shots, bad shots, led to turnovers as well. So the improvements and the growth we've seen as a player, as a playmaker, and his shots, falling from everywhere. Really, I mean, he has the mid range game, 3 point shots going in, and I will say, this year has been kind of different for a lot of guys in terms of 3 point shooting percentage. I do think that guys like Julius Randle, guys like RJ Barrett, their shooting percentages will decline a bit next year because a lot of players' shots and their percentages have been kind of inflated this year. That being said, I think that most of his improvements are here to stay for the future. And I mean, it's been really good to see. So I think he has to be S tier by himself. I wouldn't say he's in the MVP conversation because I think the things that guys like Joel, Embiid, and Jokic, what they've done is just on a different level, even Steph Curry. But I would have him in the tier below. I don't think he's really has a chance to win the MVP, but if you just look at value and even most improved, I mean, he's in that second tier, and just super proud of him, super happy of him, for him. And yeah, it has to be in that S tier. A tier, I'm still going to put RJ there. Got off to a really slow start shooting the ball. Missed 20 something threes in a row or something, I think, at one point, and it looked really bad. But ever since then, I mean, he's been shooting the ball really well. And again, I do think that his percentages will come down at some point. But overall, I mean, his shot selection as the season's gone on has gotten better. He loves going to that mid-range pull-up game, which is really nice to see. We talk about it a lot on our YouTube videos, on our podcast, but the fact that, a lot of people want to claim that the mid-range is dead, but the most, efficient and the best scorers in the league still have that mid-range game. RJ Barrett still has that going for him. I think there are still things he can work on. His defense is much improved, but I think he can continue to get better there. Continuing to be a better playmaker and decision making, and then shooting off the dribble, because a lot of his shots, 3-point shots, do come off of kickouts, which isn't a bad thing, right? The ability to play off the ball is really important in today's NBA, something that not every star can or is willing to do, but he's been better at that. But being able to get his own shot or 3-point shot off of the dribble, playing in the pick and roll, and also finishing and going right. And that's something he's gotten better at compared to last year, because he only exclusively went left for the most part last year, and he's gotten better at that this year. Um, and I would say, and I put him in A because, as is the case with all of these guys, you have to put it in context with everybody else on the team and what you expected from him. And this is close to as good as I would have wanted from RJ. Stat wise, could we have wanted a bigger increase or a bigger jump in points per game, rebounds, and assists? Maybe, but he passed the eye test for me. A lot of what he's done this year has been very positive and encouraging to see. And I think if you're a Knicks fan, you have to start to believe in RJ as really a star in the making. And, I'm not saying that he's going to be a Zion, right? Because he's the guy that the Knicks wanted in the draft and obviously didn't get because the Knicks fell to picking third. But I think RJ still has the potential to be the second best player in that draft. Now, Ja's having a really good career so far, and that's not to say that Ja won't be the second best player, but I think RJ still has the potential. I also really like his aggressiveness and efficiency down the stretch in some of these games. And again, that's something he can continue to get better at. But he's had a couple games here and there, especially as of late and during the win streak, where he was knocking down clutch threes, clutch free throws, and icing games. And you love to see that confidence from RJ. And that's one thing he's always had, is a confidence, right? He's never been afraid of the moment, never been afraid of playing in New York. So overall, I think really happy with the progress he's made over the season. So who else do I want to put at A? I'm gonna put Derrick Rose at A. Another guy who during the winning streak just played really good basketball. Most games was scoring over 15 points, dishing out 5-6 assists, and really efficiently too. It wasn't like he was jacking up a lot of shots, a lot of bad shots. He was shooting over 50% on most nights, and the offense just looks so much better when he's out there. And look, I'm not going to jump on the hate train that Alfred Payne has following him, because I think he gets enough hate. And I'll go more into his season and my opinions on him when we get to him. But, when Rose is out there, they push the tempo, and, whether it's a make or a miss, he's always looking to, get out in transition, play at a faster pace. And that helps guys like IQ, Emmanuel Quickly and Mitchell Robinson when he was playing. And the biggest benefactor has been Obi Toppin, obviously. But yeah, I think Rose has come in and done a really good job in his second stint as a Knick. I don't think his defensive fall off from Payton is that crazy, which is why you see Derrick Rose finishing a lot of games, right? Alfred Payne's remained the starter, but in a lot of these games, it is Quickly and or Rose finishing games. And I think that speaks, that says a lot about Thibodeau's trust. And a lot of coaches will tell you that. It's something they tell a lot of their sixth men or guys off the bench, that, it's not necessarily about who starts the game, but a lot of times it's about who finishes the game. That's more important. And, if you remember a guy like J.R. Smith coming off the bench for the Knicks, a lot of games he ended up finishing the game out. And that says a lot about the coach's trust in a player like that. But yeah, Derrick Rose has been really good off and on the court. I think his leadership was really big in the winning streak, and just continues to be for this team that has a lot of young guys like Quickly and Toppin, even guys like Ntilikina, and it's been really good to see him come back and play really well. Do I want to put anyone else in the A tier? I'm gonna put Nerlens Noel here, because his performance as of late, especially, has just been ridiculous. His ability to defend the rim, protect the rim, and just erase mistakes is just, it's remarkable. And he came into the league as a highly touted prospect, didn't really pan out at first, had some injuries, and now he's kind of settled on this new role of really being an elite rim protector. And He doesn't focus too much on the offense or anything else. I think he kind of cut his ego out, and he's thriving. He's thriving, and he's had some really clutch blocks for the Knicks. He had 2 or 3 game-saving blocks during the win streak, and like the Mitchell Robinson injury was a huge blow to the Knicks. There's no denying that. I'm a huge Mitchell Robinson fan, and how hard he worked to get back from the previous injuries and how tough he was playing, and it's another guy who showed a lot of improvement this year. Like, I was really happy with the improvements he made. He cut down on the silly fouls that he's always had troubles with, and was playing at a really high level. So the injuries really sucked to see for Mitchell Robinson, but Noel's come in seamlessly and just filled in admirably. So I would put him in the A spot, just again for what we're paying him, for what we expected, um, and just his availability, his ability to come in and right after Mitchell Robinson got hurt and fill that hole in. Mitchell Robinson, I'm only going to put at B just because of the injury. Was it not, were it not for the injuries, I'd probably still have him at A. I think, again, he was having a really good season, improved on the fouling troubles that he had earlier on in his career, and looked like he was on his way to a really, really solid season. I still believe in him. I still think he can be prime DeAndre Jordan kind of rim protecting big. I do think that he can still get stronger, kind of like a DeAndre Jordan had to go through, improve his rebounding. But as long as he does that, the instincts are there, the athletic abilities are there, the finishing around the rim is there. I think he has a really bright future, and I'm really happy with the improvements he showed during the first half of the season. I'm gonna put Emmanuel Quickley here too. Emmanuel Quickley is someone that I think, were the Knicks in a more tank-oriented mindset, or just a less winning kind of season, he might even be an A, because I think he would put up better numbers. But he sacrificed some of his own numbers because he's had to share minutes with Alfred and Derrick Rose, and even guys like Alec Burks and Frank Ntilikina at times, right? So his numbers don't look ridiculous, but his impact on the floor when he's out there is still very visible. He spreads the floor out, and something that Alfred Payne and even Derrick Rose has been, again, very good for this team, can't do as well. I like the way he plays the pick and roll. I think he's an above average passer for a rookie. And, he's someone that there's multiple players who come out of Kentucky who they don't necessarily look as good as they could were they at a different school, because they have to share the floor with so many guys. When you're at Kentucky, yes, Calipari does get you ready for the NBA, but it's still very, there's a lot of guys who are talented on those Kentucky teams. So you don't always get to showcase your full potential. Anthony Davis is a good example of that, because, he could shoot the jump shot, but he didn't really get to over there. Devin Booker's another guy who didn't really get to showcase his full abilities at Kentucky. And I think Quickly was someone like that, because, as he shared the floor with Tyrese Maxey, he had to play shooting guard a lot. But Quickly said so himself that he's comfortable as a ball handler, as a point guard. He came into the league and showed pretty good passing abilities to guys like Obi and Mitchell Robinson. And I love the fact that Thibodeau's given him a green light. I love his confidence to really just pull up from anywhere whenever he's open. He doesn't hesitate. He's way beyond his years in being able to draw fouls for a rookie, something that he's really good at. And if you're a Knicks fan or watched Knicks games, I'm sure you've seen him. He obviously watched a lot of Lou Williams. That's one of his favorite players. And you can kind of see that herky-jerky action. Again, just being able to read the defense. And if, they're reaching it a little bit, just able to draw the foul, right? And he's a really good free throw shooter. So it helps a lot. Hovering around, I think, 90%. And I was happy with the pick when it happened. I talked about it in my draft recap podcast. I was happy with the pick, but I didn't expect him to be this good or effective in his first year. But yeah, I'm happy. And unlike some of the other rookies or just players in the league who are, solid offensive players, he's also a solid defensive player. He does have some mistakes still, but, he has decent wingspan. or length, and he tries, right? He battles, and I think that I don't know if he pans out to be a starting point guard on a contending team. I don't know if his best role is suited as a guy like Lou Williams, where he comes in, gives you spurts of scoring 16, 18 points a game, or if he could be a starting point guard. I think the potential is there. I just don't know if we can slot him in for sure there. So like if the Knicks ended up, and I know we're not really going to end up as a lottery pick anymore, but if we had ended up with like a top 5 pick, that's why I would have still liked to see them go after a guy like Jalen Suggs or Cade Cunningham. Obviously, that's not the case, and we don't have to worry about that. So it'll be interesting to see Quickly's progression going forward and what he, slots to be. If he's a explosive sixth man coming off the bench, or if he can really lead an offense, lead a team as the starting point guard. Um, who else would I put in the B section? I would probably put 2 more guys here. I'll put Reggie Bullock and Alec Burks. I think those are the last 2 guys I would put on that B section. Um, Bullock has been amazing, man, and he's been around the league a long time. Nobody's ever said a bad thing about him. He's always been a solid teammate, from what we've heard. But he's really stepped up this year. We knew he was a good shooter, and he was gonna be important to this team because you look at this lineup, and again, nobody expected RJ or Julius Randle to shoot as well as they've ended up shooting this season from 3. But outside of maybe Quickly and Burks, Reggie Bullock was going to be that main or one of the main 3-point threats, and he's been very good at that. He tries really hard on defense. He's not an elite defender by any means, right? You saw that in his game against Devin Booker. Kind of got torched. It's hard to stop a guy like Devin Booker, right? Not many guys in the league can, but he battles every night. He has a decent wingspan. Decent size. Not the strongest or most athletic guy, but again, he battles and seems to just be in the right spot at the right times. He's had some really clutch threes, whether it's the cap off runs or at the end of games, especially during the win streak again. And he's one of the guys that really stepped up during that win streak. Alec Burks, he's been out of the lineup here and there. I think he's out with the safety protocol stuff right now, and he missed time earlier on in the season with, I think, a sprained ankle. But for the most part, whenever he's been in the lineup, he's been giving the Knicks, much needed scoring help. He's had some crucial mistakes and isn't the best ball handler. Isn't a primary or even a secondary playmaker. I think he does end up with too many ball handling duties at times. He's not a guy you want as a playmaker. That being said, I do think that he's a guy that has helped the Knicks out a lot. Again, another really solid defender. I think defensive rating wise, he's one of the best individual defensive rating players the Knicks have. And, he also gives them shooting. A guy that can get his own shot, a guy that can catch fire. And, he's really stepped up his scoring in some of the games where, especially before the win streak, when the Knicks were kind of trading wins and losses, some games where Randle either needed help or just wasn't on, and Burks sometimes was, one of the leading scorers, and he's helped the Knicks a lot as well. So he's one of the guys that I'm not sure if he'll be back. I know there's a market for him because of his shooting. Even last year, he played really solid after kind of being, he was drafted pretty high by Utah and then kind of never really panned out. Had some solid games with Cleveland last year, and he found his way onto the Knicks. But I think after the last year and a half or so, he is going to have a market going into, free agency. So, pretty sure that's this summer he's going to be a free agent. So it'll be interesting to see where, if he comes back or not. Here in the C tier is probably going to be where most of the guys are. Like, again, I'm just going to put the guys who don't really play here. Theo Pinson, I love the guy. Seems like a great, great teammate. I mean, he's up and cheering pretty much the whole game, and he talked about just trying to make the game fun for everyone. And that's why, he talked about how everybody started playing basketball because of the love of the game. And he wants to make sure that everyone, including the coaches, still feel that at the games. and you can tell the chemistry with this Knicks team is just different. I wouldn't say that the Knicks of the past few years have had like chemistry issues, but you can tell when a team has that special it factor. And this team, the way they've rallied around Julius Randle, the way they just hustle and play together and battle, the way they fight on defense, even if they're outmanned, even if the other team goes on a huge run, they don't quit until the game's over. And a lot of that is because of guys like Theo Pinson. You also have leadership um, with guys like Reggie Bullock and Derrick Rose, and I think it's a perfect balance of leadership and youth. But Pinson's been a big part of that. Now, again, he's barely played. I don't want to put him in C tier just because of that, because I'm going more so by obviously on court performance. But I will say, he's probably at the top of D tier then, because I do think that guys like this are important to a roster, especially when you're talking about chemistry and you're talking about a team that is having a resurgent year, a surprising year. I don't know why there's a double here, but yeah, I'm gonna put those guys at D, and pretty much everyone else I'm gonna have at C. For one reason or another, these are guys that don't play much, right? Ntilikina hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. I mean, the Knicks do have a lot of guards. They started the season out with a lot of guards, right? I mean, you think of all the guys that have played guard minutes for the Knicks, whether it's point guard or shooting guard. You obviously have the RJ Barrett, Reggie Bullock, Emmanuel Quickly, Alec Burks, Alfred Payne, Frank Ntilikina. We also have guys from earlier on in the season, Dennis Smith Jr., Austin Rivers. So a lot of guards. And Ntilikina has been one of the odd men out. The other two, obviously, Dennis Smith Jr., Austin Rivers not even with the team anymore. But Frank Ntilikina has been the odd man out. His future in New York doesn't look great, but I do think he has a market out there for him. Everybody knows how good of a defender he is. His offensive game has been kind of non-existent. I just wish he was more aggressive at times, because there are multiple games every year, and it's not many, but multiple games every year, dating back to even his rookie year, where he scores 13, 15 points, and he's aggressive, and he's always been an efficient scorer when he looks to be aggressive. But it's just the majority of games he goes out there, and I don't care about guys going out there and not scoring, right? There are guys like Rondo in his prime, guys like Rubio, who aren't big scorers, who can be very efficient and effective for a team, especially if you're a great defender like both of those guys were. You still have to look to be aggressive and score when your team needs you to, or score when the defense is giving it to you. But there are times when Ntilikina goes out there on offense and is literally just swinging the ball around, right? Like, he gets the ball and immediately just looks to pass and doesn't even look at the rim. And that's the one thing that bothered me. You see all these videos of him working out in the summer, and he's putting in the work. But it's like when the game, when he gets in the game, the lights come on, he's just not aggressive. And that's the one thing that's been a little disappointing. I wish nothing for the best for Ntilikina, because again, I don't think that he has a future in New York, but I do think that a team would pick him up. Great defender, like I said. But yeah, I mean, just hasn't done much for this team. Kevin Knox, I think has even less of a market. At least Ntilikina does one thing really well, which again is the defense. Kevin Knox, not really. He's a solid shooter who can knock down threes, but not at like a really great level. His defense, I probably say has improved, but not to the degree where it really makes a difference. Can't do much off of the dribble yet. To be fair, the Knicks kind of stunted his growth, in my opinion. He had solid minutes and solid stats all across the board his rookie year, and then just never really got minutes after that. And he's still young, right? So a team might take a chance, and there's still a chance that he becomes a solid rotational player. Again, I just don't really think he has a future with the Knicks. Taj Gibson, I think, he's done Taj Gibson things, right? Which is just go out there, try hard, rebound, set screens. I think his leadership is again something that doesn't always show on the court or on the statistics, but he's been helpful for guys like Mitchell Robinson. And I think, his um, presence in the locker room along with the aforementioned guys has definitely helped. But if you're, again, just going by encore production, I don't think there's much there. Um, Alfred Payne, I know it's crazy because, right, he's probably like the third or fourth most talked about player on the Knicks, um, along with, the Randall, Barrett, probably Rose, and Quickly. So maybe fourth or fifth. The only thing is, pretty much besides Quickly, besides Peyton, everyone else is probably, for the most part, have been spoken about in a positive way. Alfred Payton, pretty much from day one, has been talked about negatively. He's had solid games here and there, but I mean, most Knicks fans have been disappointed with him and the minutes he gets. I still think Alfred Payton's a solid player. I just don't think that he fits what the Knicks need. I think if you put him on a different team, different situation, I think he can still offer a playoff team some good minutes. But again, I think that Quickly and Rose offer so much more offensively, and the offense looks so much better when they're out there. Um, you know, when you already have a guy like Julius Randle, who has been very good with the ball this year, having a guy like Alfred Payne who can't shoot or play off the ball um, helps offensively. And I don't think the defensive drop off from Alfred Payton to Rose or Quickly is big enough where it's worth playing Alfred Payton that many minutes or even starting him. And again, which is why I think Tibbs continues to finish games with Rose and or Quickly. But yeah, it's been a tough year for Alfred Payton as Julius Randle has improved and gotten more and more ball handling duties. Obviously, RJ Barrett's going to get his touches as well. Alfred Payton has looked lost for a lot of the season on offense. He's a guy that, came into the league and in Orlando was kind of like a poor man's Rondo. Couldn't shoot, still can't shoot, but more so of a playmaker, a passer, and has never really developed his offense. And his defense is solid. I will give him that. And I understand why Thibodeau wants to play minutes. Thibodeau, again, is a very defensive minded coach, and he tries really hard in defense at a solid level. But his offense is just so, he takes bad shots. He gets in the way of guys like RJ and Julius. So, it is really tough to watch. I was surprised that he was brought back to begin with. I thought he'd have a bigger market, and I thought more teams would want him. And I didn't think the Knicks would have wanted him back. But here we are, and I think, I don't think he comes back next year. Again, nothing against Alfred Payne personally, because I do think he's a solid player if put in the right situation. But he's one of the few guys that I don't think and that I don't want should be, to be on the Knicks next year. Because I know everybody wants a superstar to come in and put this team over the top. If I'm being honest, I'm fine with us running it back minus a few players. And some of those players include Alfred Payton and probably Kevin Knox. I want Ntilikina back, but I don't think that he's going to get brought back. But Payton is probably, number one in terms of guys that have to go because he's taking up minutes from Rose and Quickly, who are obviously just more efficient and a better fit for the most important guys on our team. And Obi Toppin, we're going to finish out with. I think he's been C tier as well. He has played better as of late, and I did an article on him on Posting and Toasting, which is SB Nation's Knicks blog. So if you haven't watched or seen any of these articles, go check it out. But I went into the stats and. Toppin plays really well with Rose, and you can see that if you've watched Knicks games. He just looks a lot more confident, a lot more aggressive with Rose out there, and Rose has been very vocal about trying to get Obi involved, trying to find him out. When Obi contests a shot and he leaks out, he always tells Obi to leak out and to run and. Rose, again, as I said earlier, is always looking to push the pace, play at a faster tempo, and that benefits an athletic guy like Obi. Obi, for a lottery pick, hasn't been playing great statistic wise, right? But I do think a lot of it is because of the way he is used. What I talked about in my article about Obi was the fact that he gets used in less screen roles than Mitch Robinson did, Nerlens Noel did, and Taj Gibson. Now, Mitch Robinson's a rim runner. That's fine, right? I can understand that. Nerlens Noel can't do much besides that, and Taj Gibson, I understand that as well. But like, maybe the problem is the fact that Obi Toppin has to share the court with guys like Taj Gibson more than ideal situations would call for, right? And I get it. Again, Obi Toppin isn't a four at this moment. And he's not a three. He's kind of a tweener, and he's not big enough to play five, right? So you do have to have one of those bigs on the court with them. And those guys aren't shooters either, so you have them setting the screens. But I think if the Knicks can find ways to use Obi Toppin and pick and rolls a bit more, I think his production would go up. He's shooting under 30%. I think he's at 29% on the season from three. I think he's looked better from three, at least more confident from three as of late. But he's not a great shooter, and the Knicks have kind of utilized him as a spot-up shooter, which is why I think his stats don't look good. But if they can use him with Rose, or continue to use him with Rose more and more, and if they can start to use him more in the pick and roll, I think it'll be good. He isn't the youngest rookie, but I think that from what I've seen in his development and in the glimpses of his potential we've seen, I think he'll still be a solid player. Now, college player of the year, transitioning to the NBA, maybe he's not going to be the guy that everyone had expected. Maybe he's not the Amari Stoudemire guy that everyone had kind of compared him to. But I still think that Obi Toppin can have a solid career. I think going into next year as he develops, I think he has the skill at his size to be an efficient scorer. Defense was never his calling card, but he's looked solid on that end. As of late, he tries hard. A decent enough athlete, or good enough athlete, obviously, to be a decent rim protector. And as he continues to develop his skill and confidence with the ball in his hands, I think it's fine. Again, I put him at C because compared to where he was drafted and maybe the expectations and the statistics aren't there. But I wouldn't, because I know that there are people out there who would have put him at D or like low end of C. And I have him higher end of C just because, again, I think he's fine for the way he's being used. And I still think there's potential there. And he has been playing better as of late because it does seem like he's in the right place at the right times. He's doing the small things, whether it's taking charges, knocking down open shots when it's there. And one thing that I also pointed out in my article about him, he's been very accepting of this role, right? A lot of lottery guys, they want to come in year one, be the man, get up a lot of shots, win Rookie of the Year, be on that All-NBA rookie team. But he's been very accepting of this role, very supportive off the bench, clapping for guys, helping guys up. Has been very open to criticism and learning. And I've been very impressed with his, I guess, mental maturity and, his willingness to take on this role as well and maturity as well. So, I think overall he should be fine. But yeah, that's my tier list for this team. Again, Julius Randle at S, RJ Barrett at A, along with Derrick Rose and Nerlens Noel. B tier, I have Mitchell Robinson, Emmanuel Quickly, Reggie Bullock, Alec Burks. C tier, Obi Toppin, Alfred Payne, Taj Gibson, Frank Ntilikina, Kevin Knox. D tier, everyone pretty much who hasn't played. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll be back with another video tomorrow. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Also, follow us on our social media pages. Links will be in the description below. But yeah, we'll see you guys again soon. Peace.